Good morning. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we're on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. We're going to jump right in. I'm super excited to welcome to the show Elliot Ackerman. He's the author of several novels, including Dark at the Crossing, which was a finalist for the National Book Award, and most recently, Waiting for Eden. His writings appear in Esquire, The New Yorker, The Atlantic, The New York Times Magazine, among other publications, and his stories have been included in the Best American Short Stories and the Best American Travel Writing. He is both a former White House Fellow and Marine. He served 5 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, where he received the Silver Star, the Bronze Star for Valor, and the Purple Heart. He's got a new book out. This decorated Marine has written an unflinching memoir about combat and the human cost of wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Elliot Ackerman, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Aaron.
So I'm blown away by your background, and I'm blown away by this book. Talk about your experience and what led you to wanting to tell the world about it in the book.
I work as a journalist as well, and I actually didn't really know I was writing this book as it was going along. And I got to a certain point where I could see that all of my journalism was connecting to these ideas of the wars and returning to the wars and trying to make sense of that experience. Even while these conflicts were still going on, particularly inside of Syria and the revolution there that was spreading to Iraq. And so, this book kind of goes from all the way back in 2004 to all the way up until the present time.
So in Places and Names, on war, revolution, and returning, Ackerman, a National Book Award finalist, journalist, and decorated Marine, I want to say that one more time, weaves together these vivid stories. What is the story that impacts you the most? What's the story that that you want people to think about the most?
Well, I think one of the experiences I had that was unique, and I was grateful to get, was and it's early on in the book and goes throughout the book, is I was able to sit down with a former member of Al Qaeda in Iraq in 2013 on the Syrian border, and he and I wound up having a cup of tea together. The idea being 2 veterans of the Iraq War sit down with one another, but we fought on opposite sides, and so having the chance to sit down and talk to the person you'd fought against, was very interesting. And I think the thing that's maybe the most counterintuitive is what you find is that you wind up having a lot in common with the people you fought against, because the two of you share this defining experience that you might not share with the people at home.
Wow, did he? Well, and of course, people need to buy the book. But what was his? How did he see the American military? As a member of Al Qaeda, clearly his position is that no American should be in the Middle East. But yet you were having tea together. What was that like?
Well, it's sort of based on this acknowledgement that the two of us had. That, listen, it's almost a cliche, but if you go and you spend any time around a war zone and you ask the people who are fighting, what are you fighting for? Well, you'll usually get, if you get an honest answer, is, well, we're fighting for each other. We found ourselves in this situation. We're fighting to keep to keep the guy on my left and the guy on my right safe, and to do the best we can by one another. And so the war becomes very personal in that respect. And I think he was curious and wanting to know my views of the war, just as I was curious and wanting to know his views on the war on that kind of personal level. Then, the policy differences. Sure, we don't agree on those, and it's in the book. I was kind of arguing about those things. But we can't help but acknowledge the fact that we have both been defined by this same experience, and because we've been similarly defined, we have this enormous commonality between the two of us.
So you interviewed 9 Peshmerga, or forgive me, I probably pronounced that incorrectly, fighters who bravely guarded the front line to keep ISIS from advancing farther into Iraq. What was that like?
Well, at a certain point, if you remember, in 2014, when the Islamic State swept through Iraq and were at the gates of Baghdad and Erbil up in the north, I went with a friend of mine up to see the front line, because we had spent so much of our 20s fighting in these very shadowy wars of insurgents. We actually just said, we want to go see a front line. We've never spent much time on one. And we went all the way up to, made our way all the way up to front line over many, many days. And what was sort of remarkable was that, with all of the military might of the West, when you actually sat on the front line, stared across no man's land, the ISIS positions about, a kilometer or two away, the guys holding that front line were these Peshmerga, these Kurdish fighters. And all they had were a handful of old machine guns that we'd left behind during the war in Iraq. And they were undermanned, but they were the only thing kind of standing between us and ISIS.
The Kurds are a remarkable people. They're not wanted in Turkey. They're not wanted in Iraq. They're really not wanted anywhere. And yet they fight like hell for their little piece of land. Were you impressed by their fortitude?
I certainly was. The word Peshmerga means, those who seek death. So they have, I think, a real fatalist view of their position in the world, and they understand that they don't. They have a saying that we have no friends but the mountains, because that's where they go and hide when they fight. So, in terms of being fighters, they're excellent fighters, and they've had their back up against the wall for decades now, trying to exist as a people. And recently, we've been their ally. But if you look at what's going on in that part of the world, we are starting to ally ourselves with Turkey and pull out, and so it seems that we might not prove to be the best ally.
Well, that's not shocking, unfortunately.
No.
I'm a little horrified that we're allying ourselves with Turkey at all. Erdogan is not a friend of the United States.
No, he's not, and he's not a friend of, I would say, liberal Western values. But we are seeing in that part of the world a real regression into authoritarian rule, like we haven't known in decades. And I think that should be concerning for Americans, particularly when we look at what's going on with Iran just today.
So what is the, what do you want leaders to leave with? I mean, is it the futility of war? Is it that we really do have things in common, beyond the politics, that we're all people, that, when people read your book, what is the thing that you want them to walk away with?
I hope a reader will come to this book and have both an impression of how personal these wars are, and that ultimately they're just people fighting them, but then also have a sense on how they've gone on for so long. And even though as we've tried to assign moments of closure to them, they haven't stopped. The events that we set in motion in 2001 or in 2003 and the invasion of Iraq are still going on and still echoing outward. And whether we want to or not, those events still involve us.
Well, are you going to be doing a book tour, first of all?
Yes, I'm on the road right now.
Ah, wonderful. And are you going to be in the Los Angeles area anytime soon?
Unfortunately, not anytime soon, but if you go to ElliotAckerman.com, you can see all my other tour dates.
Wonderful. Well, Elliot Ackerman, thank you so much. And how do people find you and follow you on social media?
I'm at ElliotAckerman.com on Twitter, and same thing, just my name on Instagram and everything else.
Well, I would say this is a must-read for everyone. Elliot Ackerman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.
So with that, it's time for a break. I'm Aaron Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
We are on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
With 60 years of fascinating facts, this is The Man from Yesterday. From May of 1982, it's hot. Moon Unit Zappa's Valley Girl, and it's full of Valley speak, as defined by the 14-year-old daughter of Frank Zappa.
Valley Girl, she's a Valley Girl, Valley Girl.
Anyway, he goes, are you into S&M? I go, oh, right. Could you, just picture me in a leather teddy? Yeah, right. Hurt me. I'm sure, no way.
From June of 1992, looks like the team of Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric is beginning to take hold. The NBC Today Show has beaten rival Good Morning America on ABC in 3 of the past 4 weeks.
What is Internet anyway?
Internet is that massive computer network, the one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean that's big? How does what do you write to it like mail?
From this time in 1967, a worldwide search is on for a new James Bond. Sean Connery no longer wants the part, that according to American producer Albert Broccoli.
Bond. James Bond.
Can I do something for you, Mr. Bond?
Just a drink. A martini, shaken, not stirred.
Who are you?
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
With more at manfromyesterday.com.
Dehibo Tea Club's original pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on, so it naturally has antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-infection, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. But maybe more importantly, Dehibo Tea Club's original pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea builds corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer happens to die in oxygen. The tea is great for healthy people and can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. Dehibo Tea Club's original pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea is only $34.95 plus shipping. Order now at DehiboTeaClub.com or call 818-610-8088. Dehibo is spelled T-A-H-E-E-B-O, so DehiboTeaClub.com, 818-610-8088.
Hi, I'm Phil Graney, philsgang.com. If you want the truth, then tune in my show every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, or you can listen to this fantasy.
Wow, low unemployment, high jobs, high wages, big consumer confidence, major productivity, and no inflation.
No inflation? What are you, nuts? Stocks up 357%. Gasoline's up 46% alone since December. How about medical? Up 8%. College up 8%. Movie tickets with soda, popcorn, up 15%. Low unemployment? Not true. The 3.9% is fake. It's really 11% because of the 15 million discouraged workers they do not add in. Look, this is just some of it. High wages, that's a joke. It's 1.2%, not 3%. When you look at the withholding tax where the truth is. Join my gang, philsgang.com, and get the truth.
For more information, go to philsgang.com or give us a call at 877-600-GANG. 877-600-4264. 877-600-4264.
KCAA.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. Can't believe it's already Monday.
Yes, my Father's Day weekend is over, Erin.
But you went to Porto's Bakery yesterday and brought home some treats.
I did. I really hope everyone, all the dads out there, had a great Father's Day. Excuse me. I know I had a wonderful day. My kids spoiled me, as Erin mentioned. Our kids spoiled me. They took me to Porto's Bakery.
Well, there's no us. I didn't get to go.
Yeah, well, we have other kids, our exchange students, and you were on parent duty. And so I got to go and enjoy our kids, and it was just really wonderful. They kind of spoiled me and treated me really good. So I like that.
Nice.
Yay.
And you got to see, we see our daughter fairly regularly because she comes over to do her laundry, and she doesn't live far away, so she comes over, and we love to see her, even if she can just stay for 5 minutes. We don't get to see our son very much because he lives farther away, and his work schedule is pretty nutty.
And he's got the big job now. He got promoted. He's management, and I'm so proud of him. He's such such a great young man, and has really just done fabulous while he was in college and since he's been out of college. And he just got promoted. And in fact, he, like a week or so ago, went to Boston for management training. And he was so excited about that. And his wife and one of her girlfriends went with on the trip. And while he was working, they were out having fun. And it was kind of interesting to hear the stories. He really enjoyed the training. But you also know how that is when you're working and others are having fun. I think he would have liked to have been able to see a little more of Boston. And, whatever.
No, I totally get it.
But yeah, it was fun hearing their stories about the trip and the things they got to do. And I love Boston. That's a great historical town. So anyway, it was just great to see the kids and hang out with them. And but Father's Day is over now, Erin. Now we have to get back to the serious business of life. It's called Monday.
Monday. So, I'm at the end of my Rotary year. I've been president of my Rotary Club this year, and we've had a lot going on, and it's time to hand the baton to the next president. And part of me, I mean, I've got it's bittersweet, right? Part of me is like, yay, I'm gonna have less to do, and the other part of me is like, oh, it's been a year of, we've tried to do a lot of service projects, and we haven't raised money like we should have. That was one thing that we didn't do. But overall, I think it's been a good year, and I'm excited about all the service that our president wants to do next year.
Yeah, and Rotary is such an interesting thing. I kind of fought joining the club for a long time. Like, that was your thing, right? And I had a lot of other stuff on my plate. And then the year that you were going to be president, you said, hey, come on, join the club with me, help me out. And I'm so glad I did. I've really had a wonderful year. We met some great people, done some fabulous service projects, and it really is uplifting just to get out in the community and do good things. I mean, that's really what Rotary's about, right?
So,
and our club has a very active sort of service component. Some clubs are more about, they're older folks and they just kind of want to write a check to help out, but
which is needed too. Don't get me wrong.
But our club, we kind of get out there. We get dirty.
We were out on Saturday again, working at Time for Change Foundation, painting, fencing, and helping get, because we putting in we did their backyard renovation, and we're basically done. We just have we have the last bit of fencing to put up, but all the boards have been painted and everything, and the big, and some of the boards have been put up, just the little ones haven't been. So, I'm excited about it. I really am. So, on to the news. O.J. Simpson has joined Twitter.
Okay. His first tweet, Aaron, is that like ridiculous or what?
Yeah. So just before Friday turned into Saturday, so in the wee hours, Twitter gained a new account. It appears O.J. Simpson can now be counted among those who tweet. Oh, yay. And his very first and so far only post has already raised eyebrows. Simpson posted a short video announcing his entry online. It included what Inquisitor called a cryptic message. Coming soon to Twitter, you get to read all my thoughts. Goody. And thoughts and opinions on just about everything. Simpson cheerfully tells his viewing audience almost exactly 25 years to the day his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were murdered. It should be a lot of fun, he says. I got a little getting even to do. And so my guess is that he's responding to Ron Goldman's sister, who has put out a podcast about her brother, about her events, about the events. And she has been doing podcasting for a couple of years now. And this one specifically is about the trial, the murder, the trial, and everything about, what her life has been like in that since then.
Yeah. So my part of my thinking is that he put that little cryptic thing in the end about getting even as a way to draw people to his Twitter feed, and then figure out a way to monetize it. If you can get a big following, right, then all of a sudden you can start selling ads and doing kind of stuff.
Would you follow O.J. Simpson?
I would not. But here's the funny thing, right? As far as I know, the Goldman family, they still have that civil suit, and he never paid them all the money he owes. And
I don't think he's paid them anything.
Yeah, I would love to see if he did start getting money from something creepy like that all the money didn't go to him, that it went to them instead. But that's way too complicated for me. Now, the other thing this article mentions, Aaron, is that after he did his real Twitter thing, a whole bunch of fake ones popped up, and several of them are parody accounts, right?
Like what?
So apparently, the Juice is Loose trend is on Twitter. There's a lot of fake OJ accounts out there. One popped up right after OJ's real one did. They note that the parody account apparently changed the lowercase L in OJ's handle to an uppercase L. So to most, the handle looks exactly the same. Neither one had the blue verified check mark as of early Saturday morning. Then made OJ's video its pinned tweet and sent out posts like, I killed her, and let's link to R. Kelly, and things like that. So they're having some fun at OJ's expense, but also at the family's expense too. I mean, all this is still got to be very traumatic for the families, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you never get over losing a child, and to have people doing this and sort of poking fun at it, it's not funny for them.
No, but I hope that it drives people to Kim Goldman's podcast.
Yeah.
If somebody deserves to monetize, not that was her goal, but if somebody deserves to see, to monetize, it's her and her father.
I agree.
Because, it's they've been in hell for 25 years.
Yeah. Well, he's just a creepy guy, and I can't believe he's doing it, but I'm not surprised.
I'm actually, I've said this before, and I wonder if when O.J. Simpson eventually passes away, if they'll look at his brain and see if he had this CTE, that chronic,
yeah,
that encephalopathy that comes from being hit over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Because it causes people to be violent, either to themselves or to others. And, I wonder, he played football for a lot of years, so I don't know if maybe he too has that condition.
Yeah.
It would explain a lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It would explain a lot. So, yeah. Yeah, so you pick the next one.
So I want to talk about Hong Kong. About 2 million people hit the streets of Hong Kong. They've been having these growing protests, and we have sort of a personal connection to this. We have hosted a student from Hong Kong, and I reached out to him after all of this stuff got started, and it's real. I mean, and the people that are there are in fear of their lives. But when 2 million people show up, there's strength in numbers. There's real strength in numbers, and they are not going to let Beijing dictate to them. And so, if you remember the history of Hong Kong, it belonged to Great Britain. It was a protectorate of Great Britain for 99 years, right? And Great Britain turned it back over to China a few years ago, and with the caveat that China would basically let Hong Kong sort of, while it's officially part of China, be its sort of own sort of self-governing entity, right?
And I remember when this happened in 1997. It was a big deal, and people wondered if this very, very prosperous rock out there by itself was going to be then subsumed under the communist dictatorship that is China.
Yeah. So Hong Kong is, as you said, extremely prosperous, right? It is a modern city running very much like a traditional sort of Western civilization, right? They've got the democratic ideal, they've got the capitalist ideal, and now it's under the control of this sort of totalitarian communist government. And so Beijing, the capital of China, has been putting new rules in place. And one of the things that they wanted to do is they were trying to get this extradition bill sort of pushed through in Hong Kong. And the people of Hong Kong were quite afraid that this would basically allow them to then sort of begin snatching people, right? And taking them to China and throwing them in dungeons and whatever if they did things they didn't like. And of course, China says, no, that's not what it's about. It's about sort of creating reciprocal agreements with other countries so that if someone commits a crime in Hong Kong, they can be held accountable, or they commit a crime in another country and they've fled to Hong Kong, they can be held accountable and whatever. But the folks that live in Hong Kong don't believe it. And so I think it was 5 years ago they had what they called the Umbrella Revolution. And it was a similar thing where they had these large marches. And the leaders of the Umbrella Revolution were all targeted and punished. And so here we've got now 2 million people in a city, Aaron, that has only 7 million people, okay?
Wow.
So this is a large chunk of people that are out there protesting. A lot of them young people, a lot of them are people who have had stronger connections to the West, that they've traveled, they've seen what it's like in other parts of the world, and they don't want to be like China. They do not want this, and they're trying to pressure their own government to say, look, you need to stand up to China and say, we're not going to do this extradition bill. Right, we're not going to give them the power to snatch our people and go lock them up in China. And so this is what's going on. And they are they're to try to break up these riots. They're not just using tear gas and stuff like that. People are being shot.
They're
and
shooting
killed.
people.
Yeah, people are being killed on the streets.
Yes.
And it's dangerous. And so our foreign exchange student son has talked about his fear, just like going to and from work. participating in some of the rallies. People are wearing masks and things like that because if you don't want your face to be, photographed because then they may come hunt you down later, right? And they're using all of the strategies that they use. You might get in trouble at work, lose your job. I mean, there's all kinds of things that people are worried about. But when you have 2 million people,
that's huge.
That's huge.
So, Chief Executive Carrie Lam on Saturday suspended her effort to force passage of the bill, which would allow some suspects to be sent for trial in mainland China. The move did not appease Hong Kong residents who see it as one of many steps chipping away at Hong Kong's freedoms and legal autonomy. In a statement issued late Sunday, Lam noted the demonstrations and said the government understands that these views have been made out of love and care for Hong Kong. She added, the chief executive apologizes to the people of Hong Kong for this and pledges to adopt a most sincere and humble attitude to accept criticisms and make improvements in serving the public. Not enough, said pro-democracy activists who demand that the Lam administration retire the proposed amendments and not bring them up again for a passage at a later stage.
Wow.
If you have freedom, you don't want to give it up. And that's essentially what they're fighting against.
Yes. Now, in old traditional China, before the communists took over, they had this idea of the mandate of heaven. And basically, as long as things were running well, you were said to have the mandate of heaven. But if you were defeated, if some rival group came forward and defeated you, you were said to have lost the mandate of heaven. And I mention that because the language from Lam, this sort of conciliatory language, this was made from love and most sincere and humble attitude and to accept criticism. This sounds like someone who was speaking from that traditional viewpoint of, I don't want to lose the mandate of heaven and I need to keep the people on my side.
Yep. You're probably right. The problem is that her people don't trust her.
No.
And they certainly don't trust the government in Beijing.
They certainly don't. I would not be surprised if we see a flip in the leaders in Hong Kong. I'm not sure when and how that happens, but when you have 2 million people marching in the street, that kind of energy does not dissipate easily.
So with that, it's time for a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292 FQ Riverside, and K293 CF Moreno Valley.
California headline news: an investigation continues into Friday night's fatal shooting at a Corona Costco. An off-duty LAPD officer who was shopping at the store says he was assaulted by a man. Eyewitnesses say they heard an argument, then gunshots.
I heard yelling and all of a sudden just pop, and then pop, 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 pop.
32-year-old Kenneth French of Riverside was killed. French reportedly had a mental disability and was nonverbal. The CHP is investigating a Sunday night shooting inside the Caldecott Tunnel that has left a driver with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The incident occurred inside bore number 4. Police are still trying to figure out what happened. An underground explosion in downtown Los Angeles Sunday afternoon created quite a scene. This woman was stopped at a red light when it happened.
All of a sudden, the street explodes. Literally, the manhole cover went sky high, flames coming out of the street. Very scary.
Cause of the explosion is under investigation. Steve Clausen, California News.
In the front, we'll take out that tree, install a new fence.
You're gonna call 811, right?
Isn't that just for excavators?
No, dude. Calling 811 is for excavators, homeowners, contractors, anyone. Natural gas lines and other utilities can be buried anywhere. Call 811 2 working days before any digging project to get all underground lines marked for free.
Thanks, deep-voiced narrator.
You're welcome, dude. Brought to you by Southwest Gas.
They say that if you want to know a person, you should walk a mile in their shoes. Same thing goes for tires. Except Firestone knows it's not just 1 mile, it's many. With the industry-leading 90-day buy and try guarantee, you can test drive our tires for 90 days. Then if you're not fully satisfied with them, we'll refund or replace them for you. Whatever you drive a Firestone.
Conditions apply. See FirestoneTire.com for details.
It's time to take a look at our roadways. I'm Erin Brinker. In the Cajon Pass on the 15 southbound at Oak Hill Road, a wreck is on the right shoulder. Stop-and-go traffic is backed up from Main Street. In Riverside on the 215 northbound at El Cerrito, an accident has been cleared. Stop-and-go traffic is backed up from Alessandro. Also in Riverside on the 215 northbound before University Avenue, a wreck is in the number 2 lane. Traffic is heavy from before Alessandro, and the 60 west is slow between Heacock and the 215. In Montclair, on the 10 eastbound after Monte Vista Avenue, a large tire tread is scattered across lanes. Watch out for slowing there. This has been your traffic report. Drive carefully, everyone. I'm Erin Brinker, and this is KCAA.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Lori. Patchy fog for this morning, otherwise cloudy through mid-morning and then clearing with a high at 84. Mostly clear overnight, your low at 59. Sunny on Tuesday, a high at 89. Wednesday, sunshine with a high at 89. A little cooler on Thursday, sunny with your high at 86. I'm Lori, broadcasting live from the Tri-City Center at the 10 and 210 freeways. We are the trifecta of talk in Southern California. KCAA 102.3 FM, Riverside 106.5 FM, Redlands, the Legacy 1050 AM, Loma Linda, and San Bernardino.
Drivers, when it's time to visit the DMV, avoid the long lines and save time by calling toll-free 833-DMV-LINE. That's 833-DMV-5463.
This is KCAA.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. There's a long-form article here in City Journal about the addiction crisis is being disguised as a housing crisis, and that opioids are fueling homelessness on the West Coast. We have seen an absolute explosion in homelessness, and it's not. There are a certain percentage of people who it's really they just can't afford housing, but a very large percentage of the people are there because of addiction.
Yeah, and the responses that the state is suggesting are acting as if it's all just a housing crisis. When in fact, most people I think would say no, it's actually a drug crisis.
It's a drug crisis. By the latest count, some 109,089 men and women are sleeping on the streets of major cities in California, Oregon, and Washington. The homelessness crisis in these cities has generated headlines and speculation about the root causes. Progressive political activists allege that tech companies have inflated housing costs and forced middle-class people onto the streets, declaring that no two people living on Skid Row ended up there for the same reasons. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, for his part, blames a housing shortage, stagnant wages, cuts to mental health services, domestic and sexual abuse, shortcomings in criminal justice, and a lack of resources for veterans. These factors may all have played a role, but the most pervasive cause of West Coast homelessness is clear: heroin, fentanyl, and synthetic opioids.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is a very strong statement. So, homelessness is an addiction crisis disguised as a housing crisis. In Seattle, prosecutors and law enforcement recently estimated that the majority of the region's homeless population is hooked on opioids, including heroin and fentanyl. If this figure holds constant through the West Coast, then at least 11,000 homeless opioid addicts live in Washington, 7,000 in Oregon, and are you ready for this? 65,000 live in California, concentrated mostly in San Francisco and Los Angeles. For the unsheltered population inhabiting tents, cars, and RVs, the opioid addiction percentages are even higher. The City of Seattle's homeless outreach team estimates that 80% of the unsheltered population has a substance abuse disorder. Officers must clean up used needles in almost all of the homeless encampments. So for drug cartels and low-level street dealers, the business of supplying homeless addicts with heroin, fentanyl, and other synthetic opioids is extremely lucrative. The average heavy opioid user consumes $1,834 in drugs per month. Now, they're not working.
Yeah. So they're getting this through their handouts. They people stand on the side
and they're through stealing.
And through stealing, and a lot of it's through theft. A lot of our crime is being driven by this. Yes. And I think I shared with you last week, Aaron, when I was running. I run in the neighborhood where we live, nice middle-class houses.
Yes.
And I saw a homeless guy just camped out in our neighborhood.
Yes.
And that's unusual. Normally we find them on the other side of the train tracks from our house, down by the truck stop and in that area. To actually have them up in the housing area tells me that something's changed.
Well, it tells me that our security that we pay for needs to shoo him away. It's private property.
Yeah.
I don't want, we have a lot of kids that live in our neighborhood. I don't want that in our neighborhood. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want the human waste. I don't want the hypodermic needles. I don't want any of that.
So they just switched out at the playground at the park near our house. They switched out the sand and put in that rubberized flooring. Which I think is better because in the sand, oftentimes the needles and stuff would get in the sand. We'd hear stories about this, right?
Yes.
Someone stepped on it in the sand and got poked. You won't have that on the rubberized flooring because you'll see everything.
So the West Coast homeless population, if you look at what the average consumer, the average consumer spends per month. If you put that across the population, you're looking at it's more than $1.8 billion a year that the homeless people here are spending on opioids. In effect, Mexican cartels, Chinese fentanyl suppliers, and local criminal networks profit off the misery of the homeless and offload the consequences onto local governments struggling to get people off the streets. And local governments are completely overwhelmed. West Coast cities are seeing a crime spike associated with homeless opioid addicts. In Seattle, police busted 2 sophisticated criminal rings engaged in predatory drug dealing in homeless encampments. They were found in possession of $20,000 in cash, heroin, firearms, and knives, machetes, and a sword. Police believe that apartments were serving as a base of operations that supplied drugs to the street and facilitated the collection and resale of stolen property. In other words, drug dealers were exploiting homeless addicts and using the city's maze of illegal encampments as distribution centers. And the author of this article's own Fremont neighborhood, where property crime has surged 57% over the past 2 years, local business owners have formed a group to monitor a network of RVs that circulate around the area to deal heroin, fentanyl, and meth. Dealers have become brazen. One recently hung up a spray-painted sign on the side of his RV with the message, "Buy drugs here."
Well, I guess he's not really afraid of being caught
No.
if he's putting up a big sign that says, "Buy drugs here." I wonder how much of this brazenness comes in the shadow of the legalized marijuana.
Oh, yeah. Where people think it's no big deal.
Yeah, well, and if we go open like this, then guess what they'll have to do eventually? Legalize it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we saw it with marijuana, right? Get enough people hooked, get enough people buying into this. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, look, our crime went down. No, crime's still there. You're just not calling it crime anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So the consequences of the policies that cities have had, which is pretty much to kind of ignore it and or really not do much about it. No city on the West Coast has a solution for homeless opioid addicts. Los Angeles, which spent $619 million on homelessness last year, has adopted a strategy of palliative care, keeping the addicts alive through distribution of the overdose drug naloxone, but fails to, or Narcan, I know it is Narcan, naloxone is the generic, but fails to provide access to on-demand detox, rehabilitation, and recovery programs that might help people overcome their addictions. The city has been cursed, in a sense, with temperate weather, compounded by permissive policies towards public camping and drug consumption that have attracted 20,687 homeless individuals from outside LA County. Yeah, I mean, if you think you can sit there on the street and do whatever you want, because clearly you can, then yeah, of course people are going to go there.
Well, there was a big article that we talked about, I want to say last year, where they talked about all of these people from the Midwest that were being addicted and then being sent to rehab centers that were in California. And then as soon as the insurance stopped paying for it, there was no money to send them back to the Midwest. So they literally were just sort of dumped on the streets here of California, and they all ended up migrating to the ocean in L.A. Because isn't that nice there, right?
Yes.
And they get a lot of bennies.
Yep, they do.
Yeah.
So, this article finishes with, no matter how much local governments pour into affordable housing projects, homeless opioid addicts, nearly all unemployed, will never be able to afford the rent in expensive West Coast cities. The first step in solving these intractable issues is to address the real problem, and that is addiction. Addiction is the common denominator for most of the homeless and must be confronted honestly if we have any hope of solving it.
Wow.
And the author is Christopher Rufo. He's a documentary filmmaker and research fellow at Discovery Institute Center on Wealth, Poverty, and Morality, and he's a contributing editor to City Journal.
That's fascinating. It was a great article. I'm gonna follow him on Facebook, Erin.
I'm going to follow him on Facebook, too, and we're going to take a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
Business owners, join C's Candies, Big Lots, Dollar Tree, and Sola Salon Studios at the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands. Availability is now open for your company, whether that be restaurants, retail, or more. Located between Alabama and the Tennessee exits where the 10 and the 210 meet in Redlands. The Tri-City Shopping Center is zoned for multi-use. Call today and schedule your appointment. Ask for Chris Beauchamp or John Jennings, 951-684-4400. That number again, 951-684-4400. The Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, the mall with a heart.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us if you want Viagra at the lowest prices. Never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-357-1583 today to save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 800-357-1583 to take your call now. Call 800-357-1583. That's 800-357-1583. Again, 800-357-1583.
Welcome to the Tom Hartman Program. I'm live right here, Monday through Friday.
Are you ready for the #1 progressive talk show host in America?
71% of people say that the information they get from their friends and family, they take more seriously than the stuff they read in the media. Only 42% of Americans think the media is the most credible source of news. And therefore, if you're informed, if you're awake, you need to be telling your friends. You need to be talking to your friends and family.
24-time New York Times bestselling author and has nearly 6.5 million listeners nationwide.
These are crimes. These are international crimes against humanity. And I would love to see somebody held to account in this administration.
Introducing Tom Hartman on KCAA Radio, weekday afternoons starting at 2. You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. And you know what I was thinking yesterday?
What's that?
About something missing in my breakfast burrito.
What?
Rocks.
Oh.
See, I did not have any rocks in my breakfast burrito, and so I was feeling like I was missing out.
You didn't get that normal daily gravel that you're kind of
No daily gravel. But I should have bought the wrong kind, apparently.
So why would there be rocks in your breakfast burrito, Erin? You intrigued me.
About 250,000 pounds worth of frozen breakfast wraps manufactured in Texas are being recalled over concerns that they contain egg, potato, cheese, bacon, and tiny rocks. This is according to CNN. The wraps, which were produced by Ruiz Food Products and shipped nationwide, may also contain other unplanned materials. The company received a report of a potential injury. I'm guessing that's a tooth. I'm guessing somebody cracked a tooth.
Right.
Potential injury associated with the consumption of this product. The USDA Food Safety and Inspection Services said in a statement, though it notes that it has received, quote, no additional reports of injury or illness from consumption of these products. The affected products have use-by dates of 1/17/2020 and 1/18/2020 and lot codes of 19/017 and 19/018.
You know, it makes me wonder what the heck was happening at the processing factory that day when they were assembling these burritos or putting stuff in that you're going to get rocks. I mean, I don't get this. What?
Okay, but here's the thing that in this article doesn't really say it. Maybe the guy was just trying to cash in and he put the rock in there.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's a disgruntled employee.
Maybe he cracked his tooth somewhere else and he doesn't have dental care and he got creative.
Okay. Well, hey, maybe there's that. It just it's bizarre, right?
It is bizarre.
That is definitely bizarre. So you had a couple other little stories here, and one of them is about Notre Dame celebrating a small but cautious milestone. They actually had their first mass since the big fire at the theater, Aaron. And what struck me was looking at the picture, and all the priests are wearing hard hats, right? So they're inside the burned out cathedral having a mass, but they're wearing hard hats.
Well, they got to be safe.
Yeah. So it says the Archbishop wore a hard hat helmet. Burnt wood debris was still visible, and only about 30 people were let inside. But Notre Dame Cathedral on Sunday held its first Mass since the devastating April 15th fire that ravaged its roof and toppled its masterpiece spire, exactly 2 months after the blaze engulfed the landmark Gothic building in the French capital. The service was celebrated by Paris Archbishop Michel Aupetit on the chapel behind the choir, a place confirmed by construction experts as safe. According to the French Culture Minister Frank Reister, the cathedral remains in a fragile state, especially its vaulted ceiling, which is still at risk for collapsing. So for security reasons, only about 30 people, mainly priests, canons, and church employees, were admitted inside.
Would you go in?
I'm not sure.
If you thought there was a risk it could come down on your head, would you go in?
I'm not sure.
I think you can praise the Lord wherever.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going in.
Yeah. But I understand the desire to go in. I really do, right? And this is a sacred place, and they want to reclaim it. I get that. But just the picture kind of was a little uplifting to me to see these priests in their robes, their vestments, with their hard hats on, doing their services, you know?
Oh, that's good. That's good. Apparently, Target was hit by a register meltdown. Now, they're saying it wasn't a data breach or security breach.
They've had a lot of tech problems in the last few years, haven't they?
They have. The glitch stalled checkout lines at Target stores worldwide on Saturday. And this is the day before Father's Day. So, lots of kids were in Target at the last minute, getting their dad something.
There was a run in the tie section there, and they were running out of ties.
And underwear. And booze.
Did you see the meme with the guy with the holy underwear and it said, hang in there one more day till Father's Day?
No.
Yeah, that was a meme on this last week.
God. The roughly this outage was roughly 2 hours, and it periodically prevented Target's cashiers from scanning merchandise or processing transactions, as long lines formed in some stores. Self-checkout registers, usually the speediest of options, also weren't working at the time, and Target temporarily closed some stores, including one in San Francisco, rather than risk aggravated shoppers. Our technology team worked quickly to identify and fix the issue. This is their official statement, and we apologize for the inconvenience and frustration this caused. this Target said before the company figured out what was wrong, a Target employee was warning customers that they might not be able to check out as they entered a San Francisco store Saturday afternoon. Sales were being completed after intermittent delays during the half hour. An AP reporter observed lines at the store, but some shoppers posting on Twitter Saturday painted a different picture as they vented about excruciatingly long lines, but expressed sympathy for the Target employees trying to cope with the situation. And I'm thinking San Francisco. So there's probably a bunch of tech heads that are shopping at Target, and they're thinking, oh, just let me in there and I'll fix it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and here's the thing. In the old days, when you had a technical problem, it usually meant like a power outage or something like that, they had systems that could go back to an old manual way of completing the sale. Right? But with all the new tech we have, the way these things are scanned with the barcodes and all of the way that feeds into their whole system of how they manage their inventory, they can't and won't do that. If the computers are down,
they can't sell.
I mean, it's not like you can have some kid there, manually writing down each barcode number and keeping a record and a ledger to be entered. You know what I mean? They just can't and won't do that. And so, wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
That is big. So they want to reassure people that it wasn't a security-related issue, but it reminds people of what happened in 2013, and that's what you were talking about, where they got this malware that exposed like 40 million credit and debit card accounts for people who had shopped at Target, which would kind of be everybody who doesn't shop at Target.
Yeah. They had a big breach, one of the biggest, and so definitely hints of that.
So when you get a power outage. In a large area, what a big deal it is. I mean, they had in New York a few years ago, there was a power outage that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
In Argentina and Uruguay, those two nations are completely in the dark.
Okay, that's kind of weird. How do you get a whole country in the dark? What happened?
Well, two countries in the dark.
Okay.
Two entire South American nations are completely in the dark after a massive power failure that cut electricity to the 48 million people who live within their borders. A massive failure in the electrical interconnection system left all of Argentina and Uruguay without power. The failure came as some Argentines were preparing to vote in elections. It halted trains and cut off traffic signaling. The BBC notes that parts of Brazil and Paraguay were also affected by the outage, and so they're trying to figure out how it happened and how to fix it. The
way that's written, though, they make you think that it was something sketchy that had to do with the election, huh?
Well, that's certainly what popped into my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll fix the election. We will just turn the power off.
It's like the kid who doesn't want to take his finals, so he calls in a bomb threat.
Yeah.
That happened my freshman year, and the guy was arrested, needless to say.
Yes. No pun intended, but he bombed
that test. Oh, my gosh. So we are at the end of our show for today. Everybody have a wonderful day. It's Monday. It's going to be beautiful in the 80s, I think. And I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are On the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll see you tomorrow.